Well, hello. It's time for us to continue our Judges study. We're in Judges chapter 13. We're going to try to cover the whole chapter. It's 25 verses, so we're going to try to move a little quickly, more so than usual. If you haven't seen all of these, they're on our YouTube page. If you have missed some of the ones that we did in video, you can find those in text format on our Facebook page. As we begin Judges chapter 13, we've just had a quick succession of judges. Jephthah judged for 6 years. Then Ibzan judged for a good 7 years. Then we had Elon for 10. And then Abdon, right? My family's out here on the other side of the camera. You can't see them. Abdon served for 8 years. So this quick succession of judges not serving a long time like some of the others did before them. And this is part of, again, possibly the downfall of the society, that instead of having one that they looked up to for a long period of time, they have this one and then another one and then another one, and they're changing their allegiances and all of these kinds of things constantly. But now, after that, after the quick succession of 4, we have the people of Israel doing the same thing they do every time. They again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, verse 1 tells us. And the Lord gave them into the hand of the Philistines this time. So it's been different groups that have come in and oppressed them each time. This time it's the Philistines. There was a certain man from Zorah of the tribe of the Danites. So this one's from the tribe of Dan. His name was Manoah. His wife was barren and they had no children. The angel of the Lord appears to the woman in verse 3, and tells her, "You are barren and have not borne children, but you shall conceive and bear a son." So she finds out she's going to get to have a child. She's shocked by this, of course. Then the angel, though, tells her more about this child. This isn't just an ordinary child. This is going to be someone special. "Therefore be careful and drink no wine or strong drink. Do not eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb. And he shall begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines." So this is the first time we've seen something like this in Judges, where God has actually sent an angel to prophesy to someone that their child that's not yet even been born is going to one day lead Israel and save them in some way. Interesting, this Nazarite vow usually was a vow that was just taken on by somebody for a short period of time. This wasn't a way of life for their whole lifetime usually. So this is a very unusual one. From even she's supposed to not have anything from the fruit of the vine, nothing from the grape, juice, wine, raisins, nothing. And this child, from the time he's born, he's never going to get a haircut. Xander, you'd probably like that, wouldn't you, if you never had to get a haircut? Till the hair got down in your eyes and you couldn't see like
At
Shaggy
some
Dog.
point, it gets too far for a guy. I mean, I've seen some guys where I'm just like,
You need a
quite a
haircut.
trim there.
Well, Samson's, we don't know how big and long his hair got, but he had never cut it in his whole life. According to this, that was the plan. All right, so the woman then comes home in verse 6, and she tells her husband, "A man of God came to me. His appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. But he said to me, 'You're going to have a son, and don't drink any wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean.' And he's going to be a Nazarite from the day he comes out of the womb until his death." So that was the plan. His whole lifetime, he's supposed to follow this vow that normally, again, was one that people just took on for a period of time, a year or something like that. So then in verse 8, we find Manoah is this man's name. We remember back from verse 2. Her husband, Manoah, prays to the Lord and says, O Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come again to teach us what we are to do with the child who will be born. That's a good prayer, isn't it? Probably something every parent should pray before their children are born, even before they're conceived. That they pray that God will show them, teach them how they ought to raise that child, to train that child in the way that he should go. In verse 9, then, God listened to the voice of Manoah, to that prayer that he said, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field, but Manoah, her husband, wasn't with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me again. And Manoah runs after his wife and comes to find the man. And he says, are you the man who spoke to this woman? He said, I am. And Manoah said, now when your words come true, what is to be the child's manner of life, and what is his mission? What are we supposed to do with this child? Here's a child, you're telling us he's going to save Israel somehow. How do you train somebody to save a nation? How do you do that? That's a tough one, isn't it? Difficult to know what to do. And so he says, what's his mission going to be? What's his manner of life? How do we do this? What do we do with him? The angel then in verse 13 says to Manoah, of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. Yes, Kazia.
I just wondered, if he wasn't able to cut his hair, how would he be able to see if his hair?
If he wasn't able to cut his hair, how could he see? Well, one thing we'll find out later on, I'll give you a little spoiler here. He braided his hair in 7 big braids to help keep it out of his eyes. So that's how he was able to see. He just
7
didn't. Yes, I think
big
that's right.
What's
When,
with 7?
7's a very important number in the Bible for a lot of things. A lot of things are 7. 7 days. 7, not 12 is also an important number. 12 tribes, 12 apostles. And so, they like numbers. But 7's what it was. If it had been 8, it would have been 8. If it had been 4, it would have been 4. But it was 7. All right, so let's move on then. We come to verse 16 then. He's saying, verse 14. Again, he says, what I told the woman before, that's what she needs to do. She shall not eat anything that comes from the vine. So, no smoking grapevine. I didn't know you could do that. Don't do that. It's not good for you. So, no eating grapes, no eating raisins, no drinking grape juice or wine of any kind. She's not supposed to have anything while she's pregnant with him. And then he goes on to say, she's also not to eat anything that's unclean. Of course, as an Israelite, she shouldn't have been eating anything unclean anyway, but she needs to be especially careful of that. And he says again, all that I commanded her, let her observe it. Well, Manoah says to the angel of the Lord, please let us detain you and prepare a young goat for you. The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, if you detain me, I will not eat of your food, but if you prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name? So that when your words come true, we may honor you. And the angel of the Lord said to him, and there's a variation in translations of this particular phrase here and what it means. In this translation, it says, the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? Now, some people take that to mean that wonderful is the angel's name. Some people take that to, and it's also translated in other translations that my name is too wonderful for you to understand, basically, and something to that effect. That it's a secret thing that you don't need to know, and things like that. So some of the way it's translated indicates that he didn't actually tell him his name. But here we have this verse just basically says, why are you wanting to know my name anyway? What difference does it make what my name is? You know what you need to do to obey God, and you need to do that regardless of what my name is. So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering, and he offered it on the rock to the Lord, to the one who works wonders. And Manoah and his wife were watching. Now, again, we see this time and again, and it troubles sometimes when we see people offering these sacrifices to God, especially these people like Gideon and like Manoah, who were not of the tribe of Levi. And so, how were these men offering these sacrifices to God and these offerings to God when they weren't Levites, they weren't priests? So to explain that, I think part of what we need to understand is there were different kinds of offerings. There was a sin sacrifice that was to be done by the priests. But anyone was able to sacrifice something to the Lord, and as long as they weren't trying to sacrifice a sin sacrifice. These would have been what would be called today a free will offering. Now, obviously, the priests were there to help with that, and they could take it to the priests. But a lot of times, especially in these days, there weren't priests around all the time. There weren't priests everywhere. And so they needed to be able to still worship God and show him that they loved him and that they wanted to honor him. And so that's what Manoah does here. And there's no indication that there's anything wrong in what he's done. Verse 20 says, "And when the flame went up toward heaven from the altar, the angel of the Lord went up in the flame of the altar, and Manoah and his wife were watching, and they fell on their faces to the ground." They realized then that this wasn't just a prophet, this was actually an angel who had appeared to them, and he goes up with the offering that they've made to God. And in fact, we also know that they were okay in making this offering because the angel had said, if you're going to make this offering, offer it to the Lord. Now that seems to indicate that on this occasion, this angel was not the Lord, wasn't Jesus before he was Jesus, as the saying goes, but this was actually just an angel because he was not about to accept any worship. He was telling them, you offer it to God. And when they see that, though, they realize that it was an angel of the Lord, and they fall down and worship the Lord. They worship God. And then even it says, the angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah or to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die, for we have seen God. So he thinks that seeing an angel is equivalent to seeing God. But his wife said to him, if the Lord meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering at our hands, or shown us all these things, or now announced to us such things as these. It's amazing sometimes how a wise woman can help a foolish man see something that should be obvious. Manoah's wife was pretty wise. He wouldn't have come and told us we're going to have a son and how to train that son and have him prepared if he was just going to kill us. No, he's here to honor us and bless us with this. And so Manoah was straightened out by his wife. I know never happens to husbands anymore. Their wives never have to straighten them out. They always get it right. But back then, back then things were different.
Mom's glaring at you.
Still happens, doesn't it? Still happens to us a lot. Sometimes we don't see things very clearly at times. Then in verse 24, of course, what the angel said comes true. The woman bore a son, called his name Samson, and the young man grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him, in Mahanaim Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. And so he's beginning to get to the point where he's going to go fulfill his mission of saving the people from the Philistines. It's amazing how God sometimes plans things out so long in advance, isn't it? Here it was. I mean, this boy had to be born, had to grow and be trained for years and years. So sometimes we think that God ought to just take care of things right this minute, just take care of it, fix it. But that's not the way God works. He does things in his own time and in his own way. Julia?
Was Samson allowed to have apple juice?
Well, I don't think they had apples in Israel back in those days, but he would have been able to drink apple juice if there was apple juice.
Johnny Appleseed was only in America.
Yeah,
He
Johnny-
didn't make it to Israel.
Johnny Appleseed also lived a long time after Samson, so there's that. Like time travel back to Israel and plant some apple trees. I don't know if they have apple trees over there now or not, but fig trees and olive trees they have aplenty, and grapevines they apparently had a lot of. So, all right, any other questions before we finish? All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and if you have any questions or comments or thoughts about these lessons, I'd be glad to answer those, respond to us in an email, or give us a comment on our YouTube video, either way, and we're glad to answer those questions or discuss things with you further if you'd be interested. So, thank you for watching, and we hope that the study of Judges is being beneficial to you.